years to get it, but I got it, you know. And I do know that he don't come when you want him.
Albertina Walker lived a fulfilling and prosperous life. After all the awards, fame, and music, death didn't let her stay a few years more. However, what can we say about the Queen of Gospel's legacy? Why is her home now a shadow of its former self? What happened to her husband and children? And how much did she leave behind when she died? The answers might break your heart. Albertina Walker's abandoned home. Albertina Walker lived on the south side of Chicago. During the 90s, this place had various living conditions, especially on multiple streets. Certain areas across the south side had a subtle air of stability because they housed working-class families who lived in neat residential neighborhoods. Other times, you could walk across certain areas and feel like it's a war zone. Albertina Walker lived in the calmer south side of Chicago, Bronzeville, and even after she gained recognition for being a great singer, she never left. At the time of her death, Albertina resided in Hyde Park, where she lived in a condominium. Her home was neat and simple, with all white decor, including a white piano and white furniture matching her stage robes. Her apartment also housed the numerous awards she had received throughout her life, alongside presidential letters. However, with all the awards, achievements, and gospel music influence, people knew little about her private life. Did she get married and had children? What were her final moments like? To understand her story, let's take a walk through her life. Albertina's marriage. Most gospel artists keep their personal lives private. As noted earlier, Albertina Walker is no exception. Her decisions showed how dedicated she was to God's service. Albertina tied the knot with Leslie O. Reynolds in 1967. Their marriage at first looked like one that would last forever, but not all stories have a happy ending. The love between these two slowly drifted apart, and finally, they separated. Was it her dedication to work that created these challenges? Did she struggle to find balance in her private life? Well, Albertina entered another marriage by 1991 with Recco Brooks, a man from Memphis, Tennessee. The details about her marriage to Recco Brooks aren't entirely known to the public. In short, she strictly avoided paparazzi by dedicating herself to religious music rather than being a celebrity. Her heart unavoidably remained with gospel music, the only form of art she had known since birth. But Albertina didn't have children from her two marriages. Was the sacrifice of motherhood part of the price she paid for her career? Nevertheless, while she had no child, she did have people who called her mother. Albertina's children. Although Albertina Walker never had biological children, it is quite obvious that she adopted many people under her care. You may be wondering how. Albertina proved that there are alternative ways to be a mother other than the traditional childbearing method. She guided several gospel performers and church parishioners toward success through her spiritual education and mentoring abilities. The church stages were but one part of Albertina Walker's maternal impact because her teachings inspired young individuals to find their purpose. The Christian faith stood at the heart of everything Albertina believed and practiced. It shaped her music creations and molded its members' entire life cycle. She said, "The good things that have happened to me are because of my affiliation with the church. I'd like to encourage young people to stay with the Lord because if they do, He will surely stay with them." All of her teachings began with this guiding principle. Her life was a living example of these teachings, as she proved that believing in God would bring contentment, prosperity, and peace. She continuously passed this wisdom to the young people she mentored while motivating them to construct their lives by following church doctrine. Despite not having biological children, Albertina created a motherly environment, attracting aspiring gospel artists who respected her like their own mother. She had a reputation as the mentor who provided musical and life advice to the upcoming generation of gospel singers. But that's not all. She demonstrated the significance of dedication, discipline, and faith by being an example for others. Albertina served as their maternal figure throughout her interaction with numerous young singers, including future successful artists. The lessons she taught went beyond just singing. Because she showed the young generation how to approach life, Albertina offered support from her experience in knowing what the industry looked like while maintaining faith-based foundations. She understood the challenges of being famous. She knew that attaining life's purpose required staying authentic to her mission. Church played a significant role in shaping her life, so she regularly preached the importance of remaining close to faith. This intimate relationship led young people to discover success that exceeds creative achievements and financial abundance. Her impact went beyond teaching just the young generation of artists. Albertina had a substantial impact on every community she served. People recognized that her maternal care wasn't extended to one set of people, but to everyone who sought direction or felt directionless, as she dedicated her time to hearing and guiding people through her experience. In short, people who came to her felt free and comfortable. Albertina's children consisted of everyone whose life she influenced, including the youths, members of the community, her band, and generations who grew up listening to her music. Unfortunately, all of this stopped when her life ended tragically. The tragic demise of Albertina Walker. Throughout her lifetime, Albertina Walker devoted herself to uplifting others with her voice. Unfortunately, her life came to an abrupt end on her 81st birthday. Albertina Walker's health had deteriorated to the point where she couldn't go on anymore, especially after she was admitted on her birthday. Bedridden at a local Chicago hospital, she was placed on a ventilator. Albertina had suffered from emphysema for years, which left her with respiratory problems that required being put on oxygen all the time. She held on for months even after her tracheostomy surgery on September 7th, which the doctors deemed successful. She was then checked out of the Chicago hospital in late September and was admitted to RML Specialty Hospital for follow-up care. Unfortunately, the Queen of Gospel passed away on a Friday morning on October 8, 2010. Her best friend and radio professional, Pam Morris, confirmed the gospel singer had lost her life to respiratory failure. This was a blow to the gospel community, especially those who knew her. What did her absence mean to those whom her existence gave depth and meaning? Shirley Caesar didn't hesitate. She was my mentor. She treated me like I was her daughter. Because of Albertina, I am. She gave me a chance, Caesar said. Dorothy Norwood described her as a star maker. At the same time, Albertina's business partner, Sasha Dalton, expressed fond memories of her with the familiar phrase Albertina would often use. I'm going to say it slow so that I can say it some more. She was the greatest. It wasn't just her voice that made people grieve her demise. It was what she stood for. At the time, black singers were often discriminated against because of their skin color, and she was one of them. Tremaine Hawkins explained that this factor prevented her from dining at restaurants and going to a hotel. But as times changed, and a lot of credit to the deceased, she has now become one of the fortunate passengers who enjoy the luxury of first-class flight because people like Albertina paved the way. At her demise, tributes came pouring in from fans, churchgoers, and members who frequently listened to her song. Twitter users acknowledged that gospel music has lost its legendary figure. The gospel world has lost another soldier. R.I.P. Albertina Walker, tweeted Just Felicia. Gospel music has lost a legend today. Queen Albertina Walker, you will be missed, tweeted Alex. Rest in peace, Albertina Walker. Another user acknowledged that Albertina had ministered to everyone, including herself. Mildred Levy proclaimed Albertina Walker as the greatest contralto that the world has ever seen. But not everything went smoothly during her musical tribute, as the most unexpected family dispute ensued. Eric Peterson, a man who once worked as Albertina's agent, climbed the stage uninvited. In the process, Gerald Walker politely asked Peterson to get off the stage, but he refused. This resulted in an altercation between the two, which prompted Gerald and his friend Carl Jackson to intervene physically. Both Peterson and Jackson subsequently faced a single battery charge. The incident on the stage did not seriously injure Peterson, who later attended the rest of the service. The root cause behind this event remained hidden. Many suggested it's due to a growing rift between Peterson and Albertina's family regarding her items. Following her demise, people didn't forget her. She left behind a net worth far more significant than anyone ever had. Net worth left behind. Albertina Walker was humble, and her humility wasn't one to be contended. So, what significant net worth did Albertina Walker leave behind? It's hard to grasp the full scale of what Albertina achieved unless you look closely at the numbers. Throughout her career, she produced more than 60 album recordings, beating what most popular musicians create during their entire musical journey. She transitioned with time and sold off her performances from vinyl to cassette to CD. Albertina performed songs such as Please Be Patient With Me, I Can Go to God in Prayer, The Best Is Yet to Come, and Joy Will Come. While the exact number of songs she sold isn't widely publicized, her performance revenue and recording sales generated an estimated $15 million net worth when she passed away. But that's not all. We can better comprehend the greatness of her legacy when we examine her list of accomplishments. Albertina Walker went beyond winning awards to creating a permanent spot in history. She received 12 Grammy nominations, yet won her first Grammy in 1995, when her album, Songs of the Church, Live in Memphis, earned her the Best Traditional Gospel Album trophy. Throughout her career, she won 3 Stellar Awards, 3 Dove Awards, 5 Gold Records, and multiple Gospel Music Workshop of America Excellence Awards. In 2001, the Gospel Music Hall of Fame in Nashville honored gospel artists, including Albertina Walker. At the time, when President George W. Bush expressed appreciation for her lifelong gospel music contribution, she was honored personally in 2002. Through her lifelong achievements, she earned the National Heritage Fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts in 2005, the highest federal recognition of traditional and folk art in the United States. These achievements, however, did not just turn out of the blue. Albertina had long been a force. In 1988, Albertina established the Albertina Walker Scholarship Foundation for the Creative and Performing Arts to help students who typically lacked opportunities for tuition support to attend college. Her volunteer activities extended beyond making simple donations. She believed that faith helped her achieve most of everything. That was who she was. The awards were real. The money was real. But her faith? That was everything. But why would a 20-year-old girl from Bronzeville start a gospel group? She could have easily spent time with her family, but chose not to. So, what motivated her to start the Caravans? The onset of the Caravans. The American gospel group, the Caravans, began in 1947 under Robert Anderson. However, they were not officially known as the Caravans. In the 1950s and 1960s, the group had already established themselves as a significant musical group. The Caravans delivered moving vocal performances that filled both churches and concert venues nationwide, but their most significant achievement was creating a group of legendary voices for gospel music. Unfortunately, Robert Anderson retired, and the group members soon went their separate ways. When record producer Mr. Allen suggested that Albertina Walker become a solo performer after Robert Anderson retired, she insisted on maintaining what the group was known for, as she did not want to go solo. So she gathered her old team members from Robert's group to establish another group that would push gospel music worldwide. When she mentioned this to Allen, he wanted to know the group's new name, so Albertina Walker offered the Caravans to him. The group was called Caravans since its members originated from separate regions: Gary, East Chicago, and various areas of Chicago, including Georgia, North Carolina, and Alabama. It was just Albertina Walker and James Cleveland who grew up in Chicago. So, she thought, all the group members came from different locations, similar to a group of travelers with a common goal. This was the birth of the Caravans. Walker sought individuals who didn't just sing, but people who loved God and desired to bring souls into Christ's fold. She believes God arranged the right people she worked with because he chose her to lead them toward outreach across America. The group included James Cleveland, alongside other noteworthy singers such as Bessie Griffin and a teenage Shirley Caesar. Others were Cassietta George, Dolores Washington, Dorothy Norwood, Josephine Howard, and Inez Andrews. But singing was just the easiest part of being a group member. They faced struggles too. The road discrimination practice denied black musicians access to clean restrooms, while food vendors refused to provide them with meals. Albertina Walker mentioned how their limited funds allowed only for sardines, lunch meat, and the necessary gas to reach the next city. Hence, their mission continued without interruption. According to Walker, their mission to sing transcended other struggles they faced, as they only cared about arriving at their destination and spreading God's word. The group accomplished more than exploring new places because they carried positivity and broke social boundaries. They made appearances on programs including TV Gospel Time and Jubilee Showcase. This helped Caravans expand gospel music to different audiences. The Caravans impressed listeners with their passionate performance style, reviving traditional gospel spirit. Albertina Walker saw singing as an activity that required genuine feelings rather than materialistic status. It was about God. According to her belief, heartfelt singing is shown in your voice regardless of someone's background or location. Viv Broughton explained, The superabundance of talent in the Caravans took them into the very front rank of gospel groups in the early 60s, but it also generated an impossible pressure within the group itself. Eventually, the constraints of the group proved too frustrating, with each member departing for a solo position in the music industry. Walker started her solo career after the Caravans disbanded in 1967. None of the Caravans could genuinely leave the group as their heart remained with it. She referred to the women as her spiritual sisters and repeatedly reminisced about their time as companions. Following her interview with Gospel Flava, she described memories of the early days when their paths first crossed and the deep spiritual connection she felt as sisters on a divine mission. The artist conveyed heartwarming memories from collaborating with legendary gospel figures such as Thomas Dorsey, Mahalia Jackson, and James Cleveland, who shaped her musical identity and personal growth. After leaving the Caravans, Walker continued to maintain the same level of success in her independent musical career. In short, it was like they never left because she carried with her the voices that had inspired the group in the first place. During this time, people started referring to her as the Star Maker, not just because she discovered talents, but also because she was generous enough to share the stage with others before emerging as the lead performer. Then, in the mid-1970s, Walker signed a deal with Savoy Records. Over the years, she partnered with multiple record labels, including Benson Records and Word Records, ultimately ending with A&M Records. The result was a wave of musical releases as she produced more than 60 albums. The launch of her 1975 album, Put a Little Love in Your Heart, established her career as a solo artist. Gospel classics then followed it, including Please Be Patient With Me, as well as I Can Go to God in Prayer, The Best Is Yet to Come, Impossible Dream, and Joy Will Come. She also worked with various church choirs, such as the Evangelical Choir and Cathedral of Love Choir, alongside the Metro Mass Choir and West Point Choir. Most times, some of her collaborations were usually with Reverend James Cleveland. She delivered performances for the then U.S. Presidents George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Nelson Mandela, the most esteemed symbol of freedom in South Africa. In 1995, she joined Thelma Houston, CeCe Peniston, Phoebe Snow, and Lois Walden. Together, they created the Sisters of Glory. Their musical collaboration saw the release of the album Good News in Hard Times to tell stories that spread the power of gospel through challenging times. But her heart did not forget the Caravans, no matter how successful her projects became. Albertina Walker assembled the Caravans again in 2006 to record Paved the Way through Malaco Records. The song became one of the most celebrated gospel albums of that year. It discussed their struggles as Black artists and how Jesus brought them all the way. The gospel album Paved the Way debuted in the top 10 on Billboard's gospel chart and stayed there for 16 weeks. That single collaboration became a historic victory. Fans honored Paved the Way, which won nominations for both the Grammy and Dove Awards in addition to Soul Train Music and 2 stellar honors at the time. Her 1993 Grammy Award nomination for Albertina Walker Live came when she performed for Nelson Mandela during his visit to America. In Chicago, Reverend Jesse Jackson asked her to help establish Operation Push People's Choir, and she became a permanent feature at the city's yearly gospel events. In 1992, she appeared in the film adaptation of Leap of Faith. Throughout the shift towards newer gospel music styles in contemporary times, Albertina maintained her commitment to presenting authentic traditional gospel music. Her preferred musical instruments were the piano, combined with tambourine and pure harmonic vocals. Howard Reich of the Chicago Tribune said her musical approach was an undiluted form of gospel singing, an uncorrupted and pristine sound. To her, the quality of a song meant little compared to its message. She maintained that messages originating from the heart will naturally find their way into another person's heart. But what was the driving force behind her strong knowledge of God's music? Were there people who did not believe she was who she claimed to be? The Albertina Walker controversy.
Went in the room with 2 other women. They smoked.
After Albertina Walker's demise, Lerone Baker defied traditional gospel values by publicly criticizing the singer's legacy through a letter he penned against a Stellar Awards announcement. Baker contacted the Stellar Awards Board with a letter to understand their decision to present the Excellence Award to Walker. He insisted that the gospel pioneer Mahalia Jackson should have received the gospel honor, as he claimed her work represented the genuine spirit of the gospel more than Walker's did. According to Baker, Walker had no personal relationship with Mahalia Jackson, so most people discovered Mahalia through the Caravan's music rather than the other way around. He also claimed that Walker's fame came from copying rather than introducing unique ideas to gospel music. Baker thought the Stellar Awards recognized Walker because of anger toward her opponents or to uphold her exaggerated reputation. But that's not all. Baker questioned whether Albertina Walker established the Caravans during his research. In his findings, he stated that the singer Robert Anderson began the Caravans in 1947 as he was the leader until Albertina Walker assumed leadership roles when he left. Following his departure, the group was now renamed the Caravans. His sources explained that the Caravans experienced their real growth through the songwriting and leadership capabilities of his aunt, Josephine Baker, James Cleveland, and Shirley Caesar. During the interview, Baker claimed to have witnessed Albertina Walker and other gospel musicians participate in inappropriate offstage activities. According to Baker, he observed members of the group drinking and using substances while they engaged in improper relationships among themselves. He also alleged that Albertina Walker drank, and these behaviors were inappropriate for a leader. In the interview, Baker maintained that he only aimed to disclose the untold facts about gospel music and not damage anyone's reputation. His objection centered on giving Albertina this prestigious honor, misrepresents gospel history and dishonors authentic pioneers. Baker felt angry because the younger generation who held Albertina as their role model depended on a false account of history. For him, the gospel world needed cleansing alongside removing favoritism and cover-ups that limited the genuine growth of gospel pioneers. Yet, people preferred Walker. What impact did she leave on them? The essence of Albertina Walker. Albertina Walker started singing at West Point Baptist Church when she joined the choir as a child. She grew up alongside 9 siblings in her working-class Baptist family on Chicago's South Side. During an interview with the Chicago Tribune, she explained what her church experience during childhood felt like. Her sisters, Rosemarie and Albertina, sang in the choir while their mother attended worship services there. At the time, they both joined the Williams Singers Children's Gospel Group, which performed at churches across Chicago and the Midwest. Albertina remembers her childhood as one filled with unimaginable joy and happiness because she experienced a happy life unaffected by modern issues that plague children, such as substance abuse and violence. The powerful gospel concerts at West Point Baptist Church held a special place in her heart, leaving a lasting impression that she carried with her into her adult life. The atmosphere was electric with a palpable sense of community and spirituality as the congregation gathered to sing and celebrate their faith. It was here that she first experienced the raw emotion and uplifting joy that gospel music can evoke. Around the same time, she discovered the influential gospel musicians who would shape her understanding and appreciation of the genre. Artists like Sally, whose soulful voice resonated deeply, Roberta Martin with her stirring arrangements, the iconic Mahalia Jackson, whose performances could move an audience to tears, and Tommy E. Dorsey, known for blending the sacred with the secular, showcased a different side of music that transcended mere entertainment. Their journeys from blues and jazz into gospel music highlighted a powerful evolution, reflecting a search for deeper meaning and purpose. This transition resonated with her own aspirations, inspiring her to explore her own musical path. As she navigated her teenage years, she found herself sharing the stage with exceptionally talented musicians like Willie Webb and Robert Anderson. Their collaborations were a fusion of creativity and faith, blending harmonies and rhythms that reflected their shared devotion. They would perform together in venues that echoed with the sounds of worship, both in Baptist churches and in the more spirited Pentecostal houses of worship. The energy in these spaces was infectious, a blend of fervor and celebration as they delivered their messages through heartfelt songs. Their powerful live performances were often broadcast on the radio, allowing their music to reach far beyond the walls of the church. This exposure not only expanded her audience but also familiarized her with the world of show business and gospel music. She learned the nuances required for captivating performances, understanding how to connect with audiences on a deeper level. Albertina, as she was known, began to find her own voice within this vibrant tapestry of sound, culture, and faith, paving the way for her future in the gospel music scene where tradition and innovation beautifully converged. Undeterred by her international fame with the Caravans in the 1950s, Walker kept singing at West Point Baptist Church and was still known as Albertina to other members. As Reverend Bernard Jakes, the senior pastor at West Point, remembers, She would often make remarks on how individuals worldwide recognized her internationally. Still, she remained Albertina within the church community. Yet, despite her fame, Albertina continually devoted her time to the church, often interacting with her members, especially the youths. According to Camarius Lee, a church youth member, Walker took special care each year to speak with him before his college departure. Walker served at West Point and did a lot more than just perform songs. Every Sunday, she built meaningful relationships with church members, especially when she sat beside Marcus Johnson in the second row of pews. During their first encounter at church in 1986, Robert Nichols had just become friends with Walker, and by 2002 he had joined the church under her influence. Following the time her health deteriorated, Walker still maintained her regular church attendance and performances, even when she required oxygen assistance. Nichols remembers Walker removing the oxygen mask when the melodies became too strong. Albertina Walker has left a lasting legacy that continues to inspire many. Since 1988, the Albertina Walker Scholarship at West Point Baptist Church has been helping young individuals further their education, embodying her commitment to uplift and empower the community. This scholarship reflects her belief in the importance of education and mentorship, providing opportunities for those striving to make a difference in their lives and the lives of others. When Albertina passed away, her influence was so profound that it sparked discussions about renaming Ellis Park in her honor. This movement highlighted how much she meant to her community and how her contributions transcended music, touching hearts and lives across the city. In recognition of her impact, the city of Chicago took meaningful action by renaming the intersection of 35th Street and Cottage Grove to Albertina Walker and the Caravans Drive. This renaming serves not only as a tribute to her remarkable talent, but also honors her beloved group, the Caravans, which played an instrumental role in her career. Through this dedication, the city pays homage to both her artistic legacy and her dedication to her faith and community, ensuring that her story and the values she championed will continue to resonate for generations to come. But Albertina didn't influence just one person. The church musical minister, Shantram Hawkins, remembers Albertina's teachings regarding the importance of authentic gospel music. Over time, Hawkins dedicated himself to preserving the classic gospel sound when modern churches shifted toward contemporary music by combining traditional musical elements with the new musical style. According to Howard Williams, who dedicated many years to the choir, Walker's songs create a meaningful bond for people who grew up during that phase because they could relate better to Albertina's struggles. Younger generations have not experienced really tough times like we experienced coming up. How do I put it? When you hear songs like she sings, we can really identify with them because we've experienced so much of it. And I guess that's why we have such deep feelings about it, he admitted. Hawkins considers the moment Walker performed Great Is Thy Faithfulness with the choir when her health declined as one of her most epic memories. When she would sing, it would be so full, he says. It would be like Jeremiah said in the Bible, it's like fire in the bones. Albertina Walker's legacy continues to enrich the West Point Baptist Church community in the hearts of many of her admirers after her passing. Folks can no longer hear her voice in the choir, but her musical spirit remains alive today, reaching and motivating the new gospel generation. But the question still lingers. When someone gives so much to the world, how do we hold on when they are gone? Please share your thoughts with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Before you go, explore the other videos on your screen.